How do I avoid bankruptcy? You're not the only one, as there are various ways to get rid of loan debt, though people only see two, which are paying your debt or filing for bankruptcy. In this article, we're going to discuss the consequences, different ways of avoiding bankruptcy, and the potential alternatives. Ready for a quick quiz? It's a procedure, within the confines of the law, that allows the debtor or debtors, if it includes a body or company, to appeal to a court for partial or total relief from their debt, due to certain circumstances beyond the debtor's control. By nature, bankruptcy is often filed by the debtor and imposed by the court of law, if the case goes in favor of the debtor. Bankruptcy and insolvency are two different terms, even though many use them interchangeably. Insolvency is the state of being unable to make payments towards your debt, while this is an action taken to relieve you of your debt. An insolvent debtor is not necessarily bankrupt, but a debtor who files bankruptcy is said to be insolvent. Under the Bankruptcy Code, we have two types of debt, namely Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. Chapter 7A as a traditional bankruptcy primarily involves the discharge of debt. Under the Bankruptcy Code, debtors who filed for the Chapter 7 bankruptcy are required to let go of their property or pay for it. Depending on the court order, the non-exempt assets are seized, while the exempt property is left untouched. Once the court order is fully carried out, you're free from that the remaining dischargeable debt for life. To file for Chapter 7, your income must be insufficient to continue with the debt payment. Debtors with sufficient income are advised to file for Chapter 13. Considering that the individuals who are allowed to file for Chapter 13 must have sufficient income, it's insane to think any court would rule for total debt cancellation. The court order can go in two different directions. Payments are restructured in a way that makes them more manageable and easier, or a fair portion of the debt is cancelled, to relieve you of the heavy burden. Whether your payment calendar is extended or you are allowed to pay part of the debt, your weekly or monthly payments would certainly reduce and your finances would be placed under close supervision. Though the aim of the court is to pass a fair judgment, your creditors don't have to consent to the court order, but they must obey all obligations ruled by the judge. The rules that led you to debt won't leave you out. Therefore, you have to set new goals and follow a totally new procedure. Below are the 8 steps you need to follow to avoid bankruptcy. People adhere to principles because or the love of the fear of certain events, things or people. Being conscious of the consequences might act as a negative motivation against it. Though this method doesn't work for all, it's worth trying out. The rule explains itself. If you've been merry-go-rounding the world before in the name of exploration and tourism, it's high time you started using Google Explore page and Amazon, so as to cut unnecessary spending. If your iPhone is making you spend too much on apps, songs, and services, try Android. Ensure you're not spending on unnecessary things, and search for the alternatives of expensive things you can do without. The more you work, the more you earn. In your free time, learn more about forex trading, graphics design, social media management, content, marketing, SEO writing, data analysis, and other freelance skills. When you think you're good enough to start rendering your services, sign up on any freelancing platform and start earning. There are lots and lots of freelancing platforms out there, such as Upwork, Fiverr, Clever, Freelancer, and many more. Before you hop on these freelancing sites, make your research and choose the most suitable site for you. Trade the stuff you can spare for money and make payments for your debt. Replaceable stuff like furniture, jewelry, and electronics could be easily sold at good prices on Craigslist, eBay, or in your neighborhood. Though this step might seem radical, it's necessary. And you gotta act fast. Act once you realize you can no longer meet up with debt payment deadlines. Wait until you're behind. Payments could be costly and risky. The earlier, the better. Understand this. Selling your stuff to make the payment has a temporary effect on you, but bankruptcy could affect you for a decade or two. So choose what's best for you, cause the choice is yours. As simple as this step is, it may be hard for some people, and I understand. but you have to exhaust all possible means before embarking on the bankruptcy case. Explain to your loved ones the consequences of bankruptcy, which seems to be your only option, and they'd understand your plight. And maybe they could help. Before you seek help from friends and family, take your time to calculate how much you're gonna need to settle your debts and draft a payback plan. There are several you're gonna be required to work in government-approved high professional shortage areas. Success. These programs require you to be a public worker, who's worked with the federal Paris Tables or accredited non-government organizations. In addition, you must have paid your loan to a specified before you could be considered at all. Check out my detailed guide on No When Life's a Court Case. Most creditors love to settle issues outside court. Speak to your creditors, as regards your current financial difficulty, and explain how you're trying to avoid bankruptcy, which isn't in their best interest also. Tell them you're willing to pay your loan debt if they could help you by reducing the monthly payment and interest. The good news is most banks for creditors have hardship programs for those with financial issues. Just ensure you emphasize on reduction on both monthly payments and interest rates before you enter a hardship program. Otherwise, you could encounter a larger problem, with a higher minimum payment. Sometimes, the debtor-creditor convo doesn't end in mutual understanding. If you're having difficulties negotiating with your creditors, enlist the assistance of a professional. Get yourself a consumer credit counselor with experience and a proven track record to help you negotiate for a reduction in payment and interest rate. In fact, the new bankruptcy rule mandates credit counseling before filing for bankruptcy, so credit counseling is an important way of avoiding bankruptcy. The main job of a consumer credit counselor is to foster an agreement, or this depends on the type of bankruptcy you filed. The maximum duration information would appear on your credit report ranges from 7 to 10 years. A completed Chapter 13 bankruptcy would appear on your records for 7 years, whereas a Chapter 7 bankruptcy would appear for nothing less than 10 years. For late payments and public records, the maximum is 7 years. No, there would still be a remnant of this account has been discharged from bankruptcy on your credit report. So it never really goes away. Future lenders would still be able to detect the bankruptcy info if they search deeper into a debtor's record. Discharged accounts would have their status updated to that effect, but the negative effect of bankruptcy we mentioned earlier would remain. We've written a guide about the benefits, risks, and requirements of loan forgiveness programs in the United States. Check it out. Don't overstress yourself. Bankruptcy isn't death. There are different ways of avoiding bankruptcy, and we hope this guide has been of great help. Thanks for reading. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.